I'm Conrad Sotella, a shaman, an elder in the Zutsu Maya tradition, and a psychotherapist. I want to introduce you to this show, Living as a Modern Indigenous Soul. In part one, I would like to talk a little bit about the foundations of an indigenous perspective. These foundations are coming from both the Zutsu Maya in Santiago Altitlan, but also other modern and ancient Maya beliefs and perspectives on how they relate to life. The most important thing to understand an indigenous perspective is that they do not have a word about religion. They do not have a word that describes what we would say is their spirituality. When they come into contact with academics, they describe their ways of living and their worldview through several simple words: living life. And as they describe what that means to the academics of today, they said, well, this is your religion. This is how you define your spirituality. And they would say, no, this is how we live life. And this is a continual debate that occurs between the academic world of knowledge and the wisdom world of a true indigenous person. Because there is not a separation in living life. Because what this means to them, as it has for thousands of years, is that we perceive the aliveness that exists behind all things. We perceive everything alive. Now, many of you may say, yes, you agree with that, but do you really feel that the techno machine that you're working with to listen to this podcast is alive? Do you feel your computer is alive? The books that you read and study, the magazines, all of the objects in the room that you are in right now, do you really experience the aliveness and the interrelationship, and that these objects support you as you have a relationship back to them? For it's not that us as a human being is on top of the chain of aliveness to use everything around us for our benefit, but rather, from an indigenous perspective, aliveness means that I have a living relationship. Yes, my brain and the way my thoughts function and the way I think and the way that I feel and how I interact with the choices that I make is different than my computer, even though sometimes you may think your computer is more alive and is against you. There is a living connection and a living relationship of energy that connects everything on the earth. Indigenous people lived this. They saw this. This is the way they approached every single animal, every plant, every object, the weather. Not trying to control the aliveness, because again, in our mind, if everything is alive, then I should be able to control the outcome of what's happening around me. From an indigenous perspective, we are in an energetic communion. We are in a place of connectivity and flow and wholeness with the room that we are in, within the car, within the building, within the tribe, within the community. Aliveness is a different way of living our relationships to every object that's present. Many people would believe that animals are alive, and so they become vegetarian because plants aren't alive in the same way. And yet they are equally as live, differently, but they have an aliveness, and the research that we shows today really helps us to experience how alive plants and trees are in their own communication within themselves and their communication to everything else around them. And yet there is a major difference today that we're exploring that indigenous people have explored for thousands and thousands of years. And this primary difference has everything to do between the I and the we. Because historically, from an indigenous perspective, I am here to lose my ego, to lose the I within me for the good of the we, for the tribe, for the community. And whatever that I do, it is all right to sacrifice the individual for the whole. This is not what today's indigenous world is teaching, because we are entering into a new phase that Gaia, the earth, our own subtle energies are in a very high transition today. And although the world around us appears and feels, and we can justify the chaos that is here behind all of these things that are happening in our world today, one of the major reasons for this chaos is because we are also in a high transition in exploring who am I and what is the I about. Is the I within me about power over? Is the I within me about how I can control and take charge? Or do I sacrifice the I within me for the good of the community? One of the things that I began to explore in my earlier days of exploring the subtle worlds and my contacts within the subtle world is the understanding that we are here and we are building an awareness where that at the core of who I am and my personality, I hold a self-light of potential and possibility. And in that potential and possibility that my personality holds is a self-light, and that is the self-light that I bring forward to the earth, I bring forward to my tribe, I bring forward to my community, and I add to the self-light of the tribe and the community. So in the process, I am developing and growing both the potential of the I, the potential of the tribe, and that creates a different relationship of the we. And the second primary difference is this is inherent in humanity. This is inherent in the memory of what human beings are capable of doing today. And with this, we are exploring a different way to grow potential and possibility for the individual and how that affects the we. That really allows a different relationship to be explored that we've never really explored before, even from an indigenous perspective. This show begins to describe and shows you the communications that is capable between ourselves and the unseen world, the non-human and the human, invisible in relationship to the visible, under the energies of Gaia, under the energies of the earth, and the potential of how that communication exists and how the flow of energy that is created behind the I and the we together creates the potential for creativity, for healing, for livingness. For this is at the foundation that is behind every thought and every action that we take.